Hey everybody, this is Travis of Black Ring Tactical, and today I wanted to talk to you about my brand new Gen 6 Glock 19. I have a Gen 5 right here and a Gen 6 right here. My Gen 5, as you can see, is like highly modified. I got a bunch of stuff done to it. The Gen 6, the only thing that I have done to it so far is I put an optic on it, I put suppressor height sights, and a light on it. Other than that, it's bone stock. So I kind of wanted to talk about like the major differences between these two guns, at least from what I have observed in the videos that I've watched on the internet and everything like that, and just kind of tell you why I like the Gen 6, I think, over the Gen 5 right now. There's half of the YouTube videos will tell you that the Gen 6 sucks and the Gen 5 is better, and then the other half says that the Gen 6 is better than the Gen 5. Who knows, right? It's all subjective. I have shot this gun once. I put like 4 magazines through it. As soon as I picked it up, I didn't clean it, I didn't lube it, I didn't do anything. I pulled it out of the box, stuck a magazine in it, and put 4 magazines through there. My initial impression was, I love it, okay? The main differences being the grip. Everything else about it, it's still a Glock, you know. The trigger sucks. I will say that the trigger is god awful in the Gen 6. I think the Gen 5 triggers from the factory are better. So I don't know what they're doing with this, but again, it's all subjective, and I don't really think if you're used to shooting Glocks that the trigger is not going to be that much of a big deal. So kind of starting off with the Gen 6 right here, the first thing that you'll notice is the grip has these little palm swells on the sides, and the circumference of the grip is actually the same as the Gen 5, except for it's thinner front to back and it's wider on the sides. Kind of like how the M&P has that, the palm swells, or the Walther PDP also has the palm swells on it. So the grip itself feels better. It's not as good as, like, say, a Walther PDP, but you could tell that's kind of what they were going for. So if you compare the Gen 5 grip, which is basically like holding onto a brick or a giant Lego, versus the Gen 6, it's a little bit more ergonomic. The next thing that you'll know is the Beavertail that's right here on the back. It's pretty pronounced. There's some people out there that they just do not like this, and I've heard people say, hey, I'm gonna cut this thing off as soon as I can. That's great. I have like medium, large hands, just depending on who's making the glove. And I have not gotten slide bite from a Glock, and I've been shooting Glocks for a very long time, over a decade. So with that being said, I don't mind this Beavertail back there. It almost feels like it kind of gives you a little bit, if you really squeeze into the gun, it gives you a little bit more purchase up here. I kind of like it. Next is going to be these accelerator cuts, or gas pedals, as they're sometimes called, on the sides of the gun. Right here is for your grip. You put your thumb right here like a thumbs forward grip. I actually did that on my Gen 5 with a Dremel because I really like accelerator cuts. That's how I grip the gun. My support side thumb, my left thumb, goes deep into that, and I press pretty hard with it. That seems to work really well for me. So I like this, that I don't have to do that, you know, aftermarket with a Dremel or something like that in my shop or my office. Some people don't like the accelerator cuts. That's fine. And wherever you place your thumbs at, whatever. Okay. But I'm just saying this is what is on the gun. Again, same thing, ambidextrous controls for the slide stop on the sides, which is cool. The magazine can still, or the magazine release can still be swapped left to right. It's the same process with that little pin that's inside of there, or that little spring. But what they did is they actually made the magazine release a little bit more pronounced on the gun, and they rounded off the front side right here. So pushing the magazine release with your thumb is a lot more positive than it is on the Gen 5. If you've been shooting Gen 5s, Gen 4s for quite a while, you'll notice that sometimes you have to kind of like break your grip a little bit to be able to push that button in, and it's kind of hard. I mean, you get used to it, but I will say that the magazine release on this is a welcome change in the gun. Outside of that, we have more aggressive checkering, or serrations, on the front of the gun right here. I really like that because I prefer to pull my slide from the front of the gun. You can still do it from the back, but you know, I run an optic, so a lot of times I'll just grab the whole optic if I have to, you know, operate the gun like that. But the very aggressive serrations on the front of the gun are very nice. Again, it comes with stock plastic Glock sights that suck. From what I have gathered, Glock is kind of like, hey, we know you're going to change the sights out anyways. Everybody does that when they buy a Glock. It's kind of like you buy a Glock, you buy a pair of sights with it as well, and the gun store puts it on for you if that's what you want to do. Stock Glock sights suck, but you know, I've got the aftermarket ones on here. And we'll talk a little bit about this setup that I have here in just a minute. Another thing that they did is they scalloped the side of the gun where the slide lock is on the sides right here, so that it's easier to grab the slide lock, the takedown bar, if you will. That's what it's called from Glock, is the slide stop and the, no, slide lock and the slide stop. Moving on from there, the trigger is now a flat face trigger. And it's got this little hook at the end right here. It's, to me, it feels kind of like a hybrid between a flat-faced trigger such as you would get from like Overwatch Precision, and also still the same kind of pointed little knife edge that you would get on like a Gen 5. It's kind of in between. It feels a little bit weird, but then again, if you're totally a trigger snob, I know that there's already aftermarket triggers out on the market. I don't have anything yet. I'm just going to shoot this, and once I get about 1,000 rounds through it, if the trigger isn't better at that point, then I'll probably go with like a Johnny Glocks, or maybe Overwatch will come out with something. But I'm going to probably upgrade the trigger on this at some point because I am a trigger snob. I have the Glock Performance trigger in the Gen 5 right here. The Glock Performance trigger from the factory is pretty damn good, right? Is it a wall-through PDP? No. Is it an M&P 2.0 with their fancy trigger in it? No. But for a Glock, it is very nice, the performance trigger. So maybe they'll release a performance trigger for this. I don't know yet. We'll have to find out. So from the outside of the gun, that is pretty much the changes. Obviously, the back plate is different so that, you know, you can't make the gun into spicy mode, or you're not supposed to be able to make the gun into spicy mode. When the Gen V came out, within, I think, 2 days, somebody had figured out how to put a spicy button on the back of it. Whatever, the aftermarket's going to do aftermarket things. So from here, if we go to the inside of the gun, we can kind of see the differences here. So if you ever shot like a Gen 1, 2, 3, like the Gen 3 Glocks, they use this single recoil spring right here with the guide rod. It is plastic. I don't know why they went with plastic instead of metal, but, you know, I'm not an engineer. Glock has engineers that figured that one out, and apparently that's what they're supposed to do, or that's what they wanted to do. Other than that, you can see that if I take the Gen 5 apart, we can see that the striker right here on these two guns, the striker on the Gen 6 is thinner at the back, but basically from the forward of the rear of the striker right here, it's the same where it comes out, and actually like the firing pin part is all the same, except for the back of the striker is a little bit thinner on the Gen 6. Other than that, everything else is kind of the same, except for, you'll notice right here where the extractor is on this gun and the extractor is on this gun. On the Gen 5, it has your extractor depressor plunger, EDP, that goes all the way back to the back plate back here. And on the Gen 6, it is actually captured inside of here. So I have not taken the slide apart yet. I've taken the frame apart when I cleaned the gun and then lubed it so I could come out here today. But according to everything that I've seen, to take the EDP out of this, it does not run all the way to the back of the slide. There's actually a hole right in here. I don't know if you can kind of see that, but there's a little hole right there that you can take your Glock punch, and you're supposed to press down on that, and it disengages that EDP inside of here, which will allow you to take the extractor out. So like I said, I haven't messed with that yet. I've only had the gun for a couple of days, and I've been a little bit busy doing some other things. So this is my kind of like first impressions, I guess you could say. Now, like I said, I did put an optic on it, and I did take it apart, and I cleaned it, and I lubed it. But other than that, I shot 4 magazines out of the thing, and it was pretty quick, and I just wanted to go home at that point. As far as the frame goes, everything else pretty much looks the same. The back of the frame right here is a little bit different, and the trigger group back here is different. So I do know from watching other videos and things like that that the trigger housing back in here is different. You cannot put a Gen 5 trigger housing or trigger group into the Gen 6. Apparently they look very, very similar, but there's such slight differences that they will not allow you to change those out. So as of like aftermarket stuff right now, there's not a whole lot on the market, but like anything with Glock parts and the Glock aftermarket, things will be coming out very, very soon. So I'm kind of looking forward to see what some of these companies can come up with. Other than that, I'm sure that I'm probably missing a couple of things about the differences between the guns, but I mean, overall, that's pretty much what the differences are. And then I did notice that when you go to put the gun back together with like a Gen 5, you just put it on the rails and slide the thing all the way back. Here, it won't go. You have to kind of push down to be able to get it to go onto the back lugs back in here. So just something to be aware of when you go to put your gun back together. You're going to bring it on like you would a regular Glock, and it's not going to go all the way. Just kind of push the slide down into the frame a little bit before you pull it back. And to kind of demonstrate that with this Gen 5, you just line it up and it comes straight back. You don't have to push or do anything else. The magazine well, again, is flared. It looks like it's a little bit different than it is on the Gen 5 as far as the flare goes. I'm not a huge, like, have to have a big giant, you know, bell on the end of my gun to do my reloads with. Some people like that. That's cool. A lot of competition guys will do that. And I'm sure that, like, again, aftermarket is going to come out and, you know, with some different magazine wells down here to facilitate those quick reloads. Okay, going back to the optic and the sights that I put on there that I said that we were going to come back to. The optic mounting system on this gun, I think they call it ORS, Optic Ready System, instead of the MOS, Modular Optic System for the Gen 5. I don't like it. My first initial kind of like looking at this, it's weird. They use this little plastic that comes with, I think, 3 of these little plastic crush washers. I'm not going to take this off to show it to you, but there's other videos that you can watch about that. It's this weird little plastic crush washer thing that aligns with your optic plate or your optic itself in the front, where like the little nubbins stick out right there. And if you kind of look closely, you're going to see that there's a gap in the front and the back right here. Now, this is a Holosun 509T. It's my favorite pistol optic. It's like Frank's Red Hot Sauce. I put that shit on everything. I even got one on my shotgun. But this gap right back in here, I don't like that. I don't know how sturdy this is going to be. In the long term, I hope that everything works out well with it. However, if you look at the Gen 5, you're going to see that the front of that plate from Holosun comes right up to the front of the gun, and it goes right to the back of, or to the front of this slide right here, and it goes right to the back. Everything is locked in nice and tight, and I routinely beat the front of this optic off of, you know, barricades, car doors, the table, my holster, whatever else, and I have beat the crap out of this thing. It doesn't really look like it because it is a newer optic. The other old one that I have is in a drawer, but I beat the snot out of this thing, and I've never had any problems, no zero shifts or anything else. So I don't know what's going to happen with this, being that it doesn't look like it is as solidly mounted as the Gen 5. So I do not like the optic system on this. But hey, time will tell. And once again, the aftermarket's going to come out with something that will probably fill in these gaps, and we can go from there. So if you are going to buy one of these guns, just be aware that if you try to co-witness your suppressor height sights, these are Ameriglows. I don't remember the height of these, but the suppressor height sights with a Holosun 509T on the Holosun plate with the, I think it is the number 4 or number 2 plate, the plastic plate that goes in there, it does not co-witness. I put the optic on, I put the sights on, and I picked up the gun and I pointed it out the window, and holy crap, my sights do not co-witness. And I am a big fan of a full co-witness with iron sights. You don't even get a lower 1/3 with this. So maybe I just need taller sights. Maybe the aftermarket's going to come out with a plate that is going to allow this optic to sink a little bit lower into the gun. I don't know how they're going to do that, just because of the way that the 509T has that side clamp right here that clamps onto that mounting bracket, I guess you could say, that plate. And So I'm a little disappointed that I cannot co-witness my sights like I can with the Gen 5. With the Gen 5, I've got a full co-witness through here. I really like that a lot. Some people say it's too busy. Whatever you do, you boo-boo, right? So I may have to go and see if I can get taller sights or figure out a solution for this, because if my dot does go down, I have no way to aim the gun. And I really don't like that. With that being said, this is a brand new 509T. I just bought it yesterday, put it on the gun, got everything all mounted up. Purple Loctite, by the way. If you're going to put optics and things on your gun, use the Loctite 222. That is it's better than the blue Loctite. If you have to get your screws off with purple Loctite, they unscrew easily, but it is a high vibration Loctite. So shooting the gun and doing all of the normal things that you would do, those screws are not going to vibrate loose. But if you do need to take it off, you're not going to be stripping your screw heads and everything else. So Loctite 222. Okay, other than that, it's the same pistol mounted light on the front. It's just got the one little serration in the front to mount your lights. So that's just kind of, it's all the same. Oh, one other thing too, this checkering on the gun. It's like they call it, I think, an RTF2 blended with an RTF3 or 4. It's better than your Gen 5s and the Gen 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. Is it like Smith & Wesson M&P, sandpaper death grip? No. Is it the Walther PDP, kind of grippy but not too grippy? No. It's kind of somewhere in between. And I do like how they went all the way up with that checkering, and they did the checkering on the accelerator cuts as well. If you look right here on my Gen 5, I do have, I stippled this a long time ago, and I put stippling all over it, like I said, with the accelerator cut. So they kind of like mimicked what most people do with a stipple job. So am I going to stipple this? No, I don't think that I need to. I do have this hockey tape, Howie's hockey tape wrapped around here, just for added grip on the gun. I'm a big fan of having that little bit of hockey tape. It just kind of feels good, right? And if it feels good, it probably is good. Other than that, I don't know that I'm going to put any tape on this. From the 4 magazines that I shot out of it, I think that the design of the grip, the new design of the grip, just fits your hand better than the Gen 5 does. And I don't think that I'm going to stipple it or maybe put tape on it. Time will tell as I shoot the gun more. But that's kind of the initial breakdown of the differences between the Gen 6 and the Gen 5. I'm sure that I'm forgetting something. Somebody will let me know in the comments. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare the two guns side by side. Maybe I'll break out the shot timer and see which one of these guns I can shoot faster and still maintain a certain level of accuracy. Oh, one other thing, they did an undercut right here on the bottom of the trigger guard. This undercut is very nice. It's a very welcome addition. As you can see right here, I took a Dremel to this like most people do. Spend 5 minutes with a Dremel and you can come in here and you can make your own undercut, and the gun just feels better. So that's one more thing I forgot to mention. Okay, so I got my table set up here with both of the Glocks, and like I said, I just put this optic on here yesterday, so I'm going to need to zero it real quick, or at least get it kind of zeroed enough-ish to do the video. I don't want to have it, to where it looks like I really suck at shooting, okay? So first things first, I've got my little Holosun tool thingy out here, right, that comes with your optic. This is something that I picked up from, God, I think it was either Steve Fisher or Chuck Pressburg, taking your, like if you shoot an aim point acro, like the P2 or a Holosun or whatever else, what I did is I took a little Holosun tool and I drilled a hole in it, and then I put a rivet in there to put on my keychain, because I find myself having to use these little Holosun tools all the time for students and things like that at the range. So just kind of something cool, drill a hole in that thing, make a little keychain out of it, right? All right, so first I'm gonna do factory Glock magazine. I have shot P-Mags and the factory Glock magazines out of this. No issues with both so far with the 4 mags that I put through it. I put 2 OEM mags and then 2 of the P-Mags through there. And I don't have any other Glock magazines. Unfortunately, here in Washington State, we can only buy 10-round magazines of whatever, and I don't want to go out and buy, whatever different aftermarket 10-round magazines, because that's just dumb. But this is a standard capacity magazine, okay, for the YouTube algorithm. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of go center mass with this and just see where this red dot is printed. So pretty much out of the box, almost true to Holosun. It is damn near perfect. I can probably bench rest this thing a little bit later and get it absolutely dialed in. But as of right now, like trying to hit the head right there a little bit off to the left might have been me. There we go. Yeah, so I think it's pretty much zeroed out of the box, which I've only had happen one other time with a Holosun optic. Usually you got to put a couple clicks into them, but seems to be pretty much where I want it to go. So yeah, this would be, I guess, the first shots that we've taken with the gun today. We can look at kind of the recoil on this. I'll go ahead and get, you know, really bear down on the gun right here, and we can watch the front side of the gun and just kind of see like how much muzzle flip and what the recoil impulse looks like. So pretty controllable. We'll stick a magazine in the Gen 5 and see what the recoil impulse looks like from that. It's about the same, but just from feeling the guns, I feel like the Gen 6 is a little bit flatter shooting. I don't get as much muzzle rise with the Gen 6 as I do with the Gen 5. Is it like a night and day difference? No, but you can see that it is a little bit better. Okay, and then we go back to the Gen 6, feel the recoil impulse of this. I like it. I don't know if it's the redesigned grip, if it's the accelerator cut, if it's the texturing, if it's something else that they did with the gun, but it feels like I can kind of, like I have a little bit more control over that recoil than I do with the Gen 5. Just kind of seems like it wants to return back to zero easier than the Gen 5 does. That's 100% going to be subjective based on how you grip the gun, how you press the trigger, what kind of stuff that you do to your gun and all that, how good of a shooter that you are. But for me, at least, the Gen 6 feels more controllable with recoil. Okay, so the next thing is I'm going to go ahead and load the gun up again, and I'm going to shoot it with my right hand only. And we can kind of see what the recoil looks like with a right hand only shot. Not too shabby. We'll go left hand and see that. Definitely pulled one of those shots a little bit low and to the left, but whatever. Gen 5, right hand only. Okay, left hand. I'm just going to say it again. I think that the Gen 6 is more controllable with recoil. That's what I feel. So just do a couple little target transitions with it and see how this feels. Target transitions with the Gen 5. It's about the same. I think with that little bit more recoil control that I get from the 6, it's obviously going to be better, but it's a Glock. Right? It's not a 2011, so don't expect 2011 performance out of your Gen 6. Okay, so another thing too is holster compatibility. The Gen 6 will fit in all Gen 5 holsters as far as I know. I have several Gen 5 holsters, you know, with a Streamlight, TLR1, HL, HLX, whatever on them. This right here is my Tenicor outside the waistband holster. Fits in just like the Gen 5 does with those lights. So no issues there. I've also tried it on my Safariland holster. I don't remember the exact, it's 6360 or whatever RDS Safariland, and it holds in just perfect with the Safariland holster. So if you already have a Gen 5 Glock, your Gen 6 will fit in all of your holsters. So that's something else to keep in mind. Okay, so what I've done, all those rounds that I just fired, anything that's not inside of this little inner circle right here, which, you know, you put your hand there and that's kind of like, you know, good vitals area or whatever. It's a good place to keep your rounds at. So anything out of here, I did have little 3 rounds. One of these I know I did with my left hand. I just jerked the gun down. So I marked those off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my shot timer, and then I'm going to shoot basically a build drill. I'm at about 7 yards right now. So 7 yards, 6 rounds as fast as you can while maintaining a level of accuracy. Of keeping it in here is what I'm going to go for. I didn't bring any B8s with me because that's kind of like the gold standard is you shoot a B8 target, but I don't have any with me today. So going to go sit and get the shot timer and set that up. So time on that was 2.1. Not bad, not great. I did get one. It was a little bit high. Everything else is still in my acceptable range. So that was 2.11 on that. I'm going to do it with the Gen 6 and see how that works. Time on that was 2.02, and I also had one just above the top, right next to the other one, so I might be like pushing the gun forward a little bit. So is 0.1 seconds like scientific? No, but we'll do it again. So I've got 5 rounds in here just for the sake of not having to change magazines. I'm just going to shoot 5 rounds and we'll see what the time is with that. I got 1 out, 2 out, barely. Okay, time on that for 5 rounds was 1.5. Now we'll do Gen 6. Five rounds there. Again, I got 2 out, 1.77. Man, that was just not great. I'm gonna try that one again. That was 6 rounds in 1.8 with 1 out. Do it again. No out on that one, so that was good, and we're at 1.88. So it does. It looks like I can shoot the Gen 6 a little bit faster than I can shoot the Gen 5. Is 0.1 seconds or 0.2 seconds like a huge deal breaker? Not really. But from my super scientific testing right here, I can confidently say that I think I can shoot the Gen 6 a little bit faster than the Gen 5. It's also really cold outside today. It's a balmy 37 degrees here at Evergreen Sportsman's Club in Olympia, Washington. So yeah, shooting in the cold sucks. So I'm not as good as I would be if it was like 72 and sunny. All right. So 1 through 6, here we go. Man, put it on the timer for fun. All right, I got 1 out on the number 1. Everything else was still in there. Total time is 3.48. Shoot it again. We got 2 out on that one. 3.39. That's the only thing I don't like about PMags. It doesn't have like a round counter in it. You either know if it's completely full or not. That's kind of sucks, but whatever. Man, I totally whiffed that first round. That was terrible. Don't show that. All right. You know what? I'm going to shoot it with the Gen 5. 2.87. Okay. Pretty clean run. 3.32. Lost my dot on the second one. 3.25. clean with only 5 rounds. I'm gonna put up another target, and we're gonna do a failure to stop drill, Mozambique drill, 2 to the body, 1 to the head, body armor drill, whatever you want to call that. So we'll go get a new target. Gonna go ahead and shoot that Mozambique drill, and the Gen 6. We'll do it for time. Very good hits. Time on that was 1.4. All right, so let's shoot that one more time with the Gen 6. Woo, first round went down and out. All right, yep. First 2 rounds were in with the headshot. All right, so now we're gonna shoot the same drill with the Gen 5. Okay, good hits, 1.5. Oh, ran out of bullets. Okay, good hits on that. 1.42. Good hits. 1.44. Okay. So I would say on the Mozambique drill, it's about the same. Except for I do seem to be squeezing the first round down a little bit with the Gen 6, where I'm not doing that with the Gen 5. It's probably just because I suck at shooting, right? Shaving about 1/10 of a second, like 0.1, 0.15 off of my time with the Gen 6 versus the Gen 5. But it's kind of weird because I seem to be diving down on the Gen 6 more than I am the Gen 5, which is kind of interesting, I guess you could say. So I don't know what's going on with that. It's probably just because the grip angle on these guns is the same, but the grip itself is a little bit different, you know, as far as like those palm swells and everything else goes. So that might have something to do with it. Plus, I've been shooting that Gen 5 for a very long time. So I think I just need more practice with the Gen 6. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. The difference between the Gen 6 and the Gen 5, it's kind of minor when you really break it down and you actually start shooting the gun. Am I happy with the purchase of it? Yes. Do I think that it's worth $741 or whatever I paid for it? Not really. I think you could buy a Gen 5 and probably have it do all the same things that you would get out of a Gen 6. But I'm a Glock nerd, so when Glock came out with the Gen 6, I just had to have one, right? So other than that, I would say if you don't already have a Glock, if you don't have a gun yet and you want to get into it, the Gen 6 is great. Go ahead, buy one of those over a Gen 5 or a Gen V. I think that you're going to get a little bit more value, and the MSRP on these guns I want to say is like $600 to $650, and the Gen 5 Glocks you're probably going to pay around the same. Maybe you can get them a little bit cheaper. You can also get like law enforcement trade-ins and things like that. But all in all, I think that the Gen 6, if you already own a Gen 5, it's probably not worth the money unless you just have money to spend on it. But you don't already have a gun, go get a Gen 6. I think it's a welcome upgrade. Other than that, I don't really have anything else for you. And if you have any questions on this, or if you want to see more videos about this or something specific, let me know down in the comments, and I will go ahead and do my best to get that filmed. Stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one.